Okay. I do have to warn you, as you can probably see, I am scripted in this video. It's just amazing. I never really have to be scripted to create responses, but yours always, your videos always calls me up to go get a pen, a pencil, and a piece of paper, and write them down because I have too many corrections to remember. Number one, on your issue of when you were talking about pride, I do believe, well, on your last example of like school pride or something, I understand how you can say you can be proud of that without having to do anything or without having been part of it. But things like your children's achievements, if you're part of that, then yeah, that's something to be proud of. When you are part of your children's achievements, maybe because you raised them. Well, if you're a parent that raised them, I should say. Otherwise, you have no reason to be prideful. Okay? Secondly, the second topic I want to point on, Zom Gets Chris, her viewers don't take her word for it all the time. And I can speak on that because guess what? I'm one of her viewers, and race is the only social construct that we agree on. And I will say why race is a social construct. Let's get on with the other things I want to hit, though. How's race an interchangeable to population? And if race is a level of taxonomy, can you tell me which level it is? And how it is not a social construct? And the reason why I don't agree with you. Well, number one, I'm a science student. I'm a psychology student, but I'm in biology class. Actually, I'm taking bio this term, this semester. Race is not interchangeable to population. Because race talks about, or I hate even using that word because I know it's not actually a level of classification as you say it is, but you probably haven't taken any science in a while, so I don't know. And if you have, you really need to look at that book because it does not say that. Now, what I wanted to say was, race is not interchangeable with population because race is talking about genetic differences, whereas population is talking about living organisms in a localized area. Like your city has a population of this. Now, it's not saying, it doesn't say your city's population is this and that and that and that. It includes you all in one. It says your city population is this. Okay. Hold on. Okay, now, so that's why it's not interchangeable with race. And I don't see how it could be interchangeable with race, because they're not on the same thing. They're comparing apples to oranges, like you do a lot in this video. Now, the reason that bone density is different is because of their harder way of life and more stresses on certain parts of their skeleton. Your body is adaptive. It will adapt to things like that. So if you're not conform to the lifestyle of sitting in office buildings like we are, then your skeleton is of course going to be a little bit different because you're more conformed to a way of life of, like rice picking or like you do in Asia or something like that, where there's different stresses on different body parts. Also, you have to consider the rest of the world has Neanderthal genes. African Americans are, as they, people get in trouble because, or people say that that's a bad term to use because it's a social racism term, which I don't agree it is. But black people don't, they also don't have Neanderthal genes. Okay, so that also affects it a little bit. Now, with Neanderthal genes, obviously you'll find them in a percentage rate from 2 to 4% in different populations. Europe is mostly 4%, or around 4%, whereas the U.S. we're more around 2% of Neanderthal genes. Okay, that's also a different reason for that. Now, skull and height are also attributed to not having Neanderthal genes. Okay, different like skull shapes and different heights and stuff. Now, about the hard and soft tissue differences, I don't know. Maybe you could send me some information about that and teach me, because I'm more than willing to learn from you. But behavior and IQ is not a biological issue. It is a sociological issue. You don't think socioeconomics has something to do with that? I know you mentioned later on in your video something about that, but maybe I can explain this to you here, okay? The development of your brain is contingent upon certain vitamins, okay? And this will also answer your question. I'll kill two birds with one stone. That's when you're talking about the transracial adoption. Okay, the development of your brain is contingent upon different vitamins and minerals to cause the brain to develop. Now, if the brain is underdeveloped or malnourished, which more than likely it would be from a third world country like Africa or something like that. Now, this isn't exactly talking about the people that were the black people that were born here. This is speaking of actual people in Africa that might come here, that might stay in Africa and go do a study of them or something like that. Or for anybody, really. If you come from an undeveloped nation, a third world nation, more than likely you're going to be malnourished. You're not going to have very good medical care, if you have any, that is. And I think that's where some of the IQ issues might come in. You have to remember the IQ is not the capacity of the information you have now. IQ is your capacity to hold the information. In other words, like on a computer, you have a 500 gigabyte hard drive. Well, a computer's hard drive would be more like a human's IQ, I guess you could say. Alright, so but if you don't take care of the computer and you don't run defragmenter on it and virus protection, then it's gonna, or essentially you malnourish your computer is gonna give out on you. It's the same thing with humans. It's just we don't need a defragmenter or anything. Anyway, the other question I had for you, well, not question but statement, sorry, is you also talk about things like cognitive ability and behavior. Do you know that the prefrontal cortex is what controls your behavior? So if that's underdeveloped, like I was talking about in the last issue, what do you think is going to happen if your prefrontal cortex isn't developed? And also, with your transracial adoption, do you even know what nature versus nurture is? Do you have anything? Okay, I'm a psychology student. I'm not a bio student. So that's why I love when you try to dabble into things in my field. To be quite honest, I'm a little uncomfortable getting out of my field of psychology to debate about biology, because biology is not my field. I will admit that. But there are a lot of things I know about it. Now, what I want to know is, do you have any idea what nature versus nurture is? Okay? Nature versus nurture is more like the testing the intelligence of a baby who's breastfed, with that strong connection, whereas to a baby who's not breastfed. Okay? Because breastfeeding goes for two different reasons, or is different for two different reasons. Number one, it's healthier. Number two, it develops the bond with the child. Okay, so let's just say, now how that affects with the transracial adoption is, number one, okay, obviously that child does not have a close bond with his parents. Maybe it's not because the parents don't want it to, or don't want to have an adoption with it. Maybe they are a close relationship with it, and you never know. It could be an open adoption where they come visit them and stuff, but the fact of the matter is that they're not going to have that close of a relationship with their actual, parents. Okay, so the connection of nature versus nurture, that the whole connection isn't there. Okay, they're not going to have that with the adopted parents. Of course, and you say, oh, well, IQ basically, you're basically saying how it shows a difference at age 7, that the child's not going to gain anymore, or, something of that nature. Are you aware of what happens around that age? Well, generally it happens closer to 9, but it can happen early depending on how the child is maturing. Do you know what happens? Probably not, so I'll explain it to you. At 1 year old, your brain prunes itself back. And the reason why the brain has so many brain cells and stuff, and then prunes back at 1, is because, well, 1 year you're learning how to do things like walk, how to eat. You start to learn how to talk, things like that. So your brain sort of kind of prepares itself, if you get what I'm saying. Okay? So at 1, your brain prunes back. And at 9, your brain actually prunes back again, around 9. Because by that time, you've pretty much learned everything you're going to learn as far as life skills. So your brain cuts back to the absolute bare necessities that you're going to need to learn, to learn new things, like information in school and stuff like that. Okay? That's why it shows there's a dramatic decline in increase of information, or I don't remember how you put it, but at age 7, because your brain's probably about to either start pruning itself back or has pruned itself back, depending on the maturity, of the person or child. I'm a little distracted here because I'm trying to doodle while I'm talking, and I think it's kind of killing my case here, but that's okay. If you have a brain, or anybody that does have a brain and watches this video, you'll understand. Also, how is race a recognized subdivision? I want you to cite a scientific journal that tells me that, or find a scientific website. Obviously, it has to be an unbiased website. Okay, so I'm going to research into it fully. But I want you to do that for me, and then get that information back to me, and I'll look into it. Otherwise, don't make claims like that unless you're not willing to back them up. Anyway, I'm done with this rant because I'm going to go watch a movie with my girlfriend, and you tell Zomgets, Chris, to stick to atheism. Well, I'll stick to my creationism, but I still don't see how you're right. Eventually, you probably will answer me. By the way, V8 Splash, the best drink ever. Just so you know. But go ahead and if you can get back to me, I'd love to know your responses. Peace out. Step above, rate and comment below. Tell me what you think.